Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our webinar this morning. We'll be covering selections. My name is Katie, and I'm on the product marketing team at Houzz. So I work closely with our customers to get feedback on Houzz Pro and understand how you're using the platform. And then I also work closely with our product and engineering teams to make sure that we're building the right products for our customers. So I've probably spoken with some of you before. I've also been doing a lot of our webinars along with Abby. So this is the first time for you joining one of our webinars. Thanks so much for joining. We've been really ramping up the amount of webinars we're doing, adding a lot of additional training. So hopefully you find these valuable, and we have a lot more coming up over the next few months. And I'm here as well with Abby, who is also on the product marketing team, who will be going through the detailed demonstration for us on selections. So again, if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to add them into that Q&A tab, and we'll do our best to answer them either just through the chat or live as we're going through.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm Abby. I'm super excited to be teaching you all today about Houzz Pro selections. Like Katie mentioned, we're going to be going through our selections process as it pertains to our selection boards and our tracker and how those two things work together, as well as how to customize both of those to fit needs of your specific company. So thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar today. And we're going to go ahead and kick things off with a couple of polls so that we can understand your current selections process, how you're working, maybe if you're using another program for selections, maybe a spreadsheet. I'd love to know exactly what you're doing. So if you'll take a second to answer that poll, and then we will dive right in.
Okay, great. So yeah, the first poll is up now. Whether you've used selection boards or the selection tracker in Houzz Pro before, we would love to hear. And then another one right here, just understanding what's the most difficult part of your selections process right now. So we can let those run.
Awesome. It looks like some people are having troubles with the chat. So let me make sure. Okay, that should be fixed now. So if you guys use the chat, you can use the chat or the Q&A. Either one is fine. Sorry about that. Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Well, we can go ahead and dive in. I'm going to switch the screen over to my Houzz Pro account. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes. And Abby, it looks like from the poll, most people actually have not used selection boards or the tracker in Houzz Pro.
Okay, that's great to know. Okay, awesome. Okay, well, we will kick things off, y'all. So we're going to get started just with the selection board feature at first. So a selections board is essentially a great tool that you or your designer can use to share the product selection options with your clients. It allows them to arrange them in a very visually appealing way, so that your customers can kind of digest the inspiration, the direction of their home, and then also gather feedback from your clients. And then at the end of the day, collect the final approval. So that's kind of the background about a selection boards. To access selection boards, it's going to be over here on your left-hand side of any given project. So selection boards is right here. We're going to click into that one. And then this is where you create your board. If you've never created a board before, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. We primarily, it's focused around naming it based off of a room. But for our contractor friends, we also like to point out that you can name it based off of a trade. So like, let's say, for instance, you wanted to do a lighting board. So all of the lighting across the entire house. Looks like I've already used that one. Oops. Let's see, what other one could we do? Let's just call it electrical. We could create one for electrical and then have everything across the whole house that's electrical in it. Or alternatively, you could do it by room, like right here, kitchen, for example, and then have all of your products for the kitchen in one room. So there's two different ways you can do those boards, by allowance or by actual room, right? So let's take, for example, this kitchen board that I've already created. This is looking at it by room. Up at the top, you'll see here the budget bar. So as I'm adding products to it, as the customer is approving those products, it's keeping track of how much I spend. I want to point that out specifically because that is one of the key differentiators in setting your boards up by room versus by allowance. If you set up your board by room, like kitchen, like you see here, it's going to conglomerate every product that is used in the kitchen together to contribute towards that budget. Whereas if you set up your board by allowance, let's say plumbing, for example, when you're adding the plumbing fixtures across all of the different rooms, it's keeping track of the running tab for the entire project. So hopefully you can kind of see the key differences there between the two. So that's a little bit of background about creating your first board. And then there's a number of different ways that you can add products to those actual boards, right? So like you saw here in the actual kitchen board, I had a drawing at the top. I have sections for each of the different things like my appliances, cabinet finishes, lighting and electrical fixtures, backsplash material, the grout joint. All of those fun details have been added in. And so the way to do that is through this little right rail on the right-hand side of the screen. So you can see where I'm hovering right here. You have project items, you have your selections library, you have 3D floor plans if you've done any of those. You can bring in mood boards for this specific project, and you can also upload images or files. All of those can be really great to build like this comprehensive picture of what the selections are for the house. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I truly believe that in the construction process. More is more is what I would say. The more detail that you can give people, the better. So I encourage all of our customers to use as many of these functionalities as humanly possible. You know, if you have a specific line drawing you want to include, you can include that and that sort of thing. So to add something to this project, let's go into my selections library. If you've never used it before, you probably don't have any products in here. So you might want to know, how do I get products into my selections library? There's two different ways. So right here, you see where it says add product. You can manually pull information in. So let's say you're on build.com, you see a Bosch range that you want to add in. You can type all of the information in. You can categorize it as a range so you can use it again in the future as many times as you want. Put in the cost if there's a specific markup you want. Add images so that your client can see, you know, what does this product look like? Am I going to be comfortable with this in my house? All of those fun things. And then at the end of the day, just hit save. That's the number one way. That's the first way. It's not the number one way. The number one way is actually our Clipper. If you've never used the Clipper before, it is a Chrome extension. So hopefully you can see up here at the top of my screen, I have this little H icon. So the House Pro Clipper is an extension that you can get on Google Chrome. It's only going to be available for you on desktop, but it allows you to quickly clip product information. So let's say, for example, this visual comfort pendant light fixture that I'm looking at, and I have the House Pro Clipper pulled up on my right side here, but I want to quickly get all of these product details into my House Pro library so that I can use them on my selection boards. All you're going to do, you can highlight over the product name, you can assign it as product title, maybe this is the cost. Hopefully you guys get a better discount than MSRP on visual comfort, but you kind of get the gist. You just go through the list. Let's say we want to get the SKU number. You can assign that to the SKU number because that's going to be important later for ordering, as well as clipping those product images. So it's going to automatically identify images on the page. And you can choose as much or as little as you want. So like maybe you want these two images so that your client can kind of see it both ways. You can clip those and add those directly to this product, right? Categories is another thing. So I believe I already have one for lighting, and then vendor. I'm going to put in visual comfort because that's going to help us out later when we get to the procurement stage. And then lastly, let's choose our project. Let's say Jackson Residence. I want this in my kitchen. We're going to add it directly to the selections board. And then if there's any other details you want to fill in, you can fill those in now. Once you hit save, we can go back to our board and you'll see magically that pendant light is right there. If you need more, you can increase the quantity. You can choose to go ahead and include it in the budget before the client has approved it if you'd like, or automatically when the client approves it, it will be included in the budget. So you can see up at the top here that budget increases and decreases based off of whether it's included or excluded from the budget. So any questions so far about getting products onto selection boards? Katie?
Yes, there's one question from Amanda. Her question is basically like, if she wants an easy way to share this with subcontractors, is there a way for her to say like this light, for if you create a lighting board, this light is in the kitchen, or easily show what room that specific plumbing is in?
Yes. So I would recommend when we get into the tracker, I'll show you exactly how you could do that. But you could create your boards either way, basically. You know, if you wanted to be able to provide something to your electrician, I would say create an electrical or a lighting board, either one. And then you can share all the details of this specific board with that subcontractor. So let's say this lighting board right here, I want to export as a PDF. You could just export all the light fixtures out, say, all right, here's the lighting. And if you've created all of the details, like create sections and say, okay, this is kitchen, you could create that. And then you could drag the relevant light fixtures into there. So let's say this is my kitchen light fixture. I want to add this to a section as well. This is also going to go in the kitchen. You can put those things together and group them together. So that way your subcontractor has access to the right information. We don't quite have selection boards on the subcontractor dashboard, but it is something that we're working on. So that way you can send your subcontractor the subcontractor dashboard in House Pro, and they could access the selections from there as well. So that's a goal for us in the coming months. So yeah, any other questions, Katie?
Nope, that's it so far.
Okay, awesome. Okie dokie. So back to the budgets. If you need to adjust the budget, like let's say, okay, the customer is ridiculously over budget on lighting and we need to change this, you just hit that edit button up at the top. Like maybe now they're going to spend $5,500. You can just simply adjust that budget up at the top, and it's going to change this little tracker bar so you can see exactly where you're at and where that spend is at. Something else that I want to show you that can be really helpful is our duplicate functionality. So let's say, for instance, you know, commodity items, things that you use quite often, like let's say that you use this Blanco sink often. You can actually use these three dots in the top right to duplicate this item. So let's say you use that in 3 homes and you want to be able to copy it over without having to manually add it to the project. You can do that right here and then just choose where you want it to be duplicated to. You can duplicate it to another room in the project. You could duplicate it to another board, or you can duplicate it to an entirely different project. So let's say on my Leicester residence project, I want to duplicate this onto the kitchen board in there. If there's a specific section, you can even do that. And then once you hit duplicate, it's going to pull that information over. And if you want to open to check, you can just click open and check. Boom, it's right there for you. The same thing goes for sections. So if you have like this plumbing section and you want to duplicate the section and use it in another project, you can do that. So it's kind of like a template essentially, but it's allowing you to like capitalize on the fact that you've already done some of this work, and maybe you do the same things over and over. And so you can kind of do that using that duplicate and edit functionality. So there's a couple of stipulations there. Mood boards and floor plans can't be duplicated, so you can't transfer those things over because they are tied to the specific project. But yeah, that is a little bit of background about the generals of the selection boards. As far as like visual organization goes, there's a couple of different things. I think I already pointed this out, but sections can be really great for you. If you've organized by the room, so let's say kitchen, you might want to make one that is solid surface, for example. So if you want all of your countertop details in here, you can do that. If you want all of your appliances together, you just create a section and you just hover between, and you can create a new section and add whatever items that you want to add. There's a couple of ways you can drag things into there. You can drag them in, or you can right click, or you can click on the 3 dots and click add to section. And then you can choose what section you want to move it to. So it's really easy to be able to kind of make that super visual and organized. And then another thing I want to point out, you see how this cabinet shop drawing is larger than everything else? From those 3 dots, you can also choose to change the size. So if you want to go medium or you want to go small, you can do that from right here on those 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. Another awesome thing about these little tile views is the commenting functionality. So if you want to have a conversation with your customer, you can simply @mention your customer and say, what do you think about this? this layout, and then they'll be able to comment back and forth with you so that you can have a conversation about whether this selection or this specific document is going to work for them, and just continue like making decisions in a commenting kind of way. Additionally, you can do the same thing with your team members. So if you want to have private conversations with your team members, like, hey, maybe you're reviewing this for a more junior person at your company, and you want to say, hey, this doesn't look right. I think you need to consider X, Y, or Z. You can do that as well. And those comments are going to stay separate from what your client sees. So there's privacy in that. So that way you don't ever have to worry if your customer is going to see something that you're saying. But that can be super helpful as you're going through the selections process. Like, you know, Viking range is the end all be all, but maybe they don't want to spend 19 grand on that range, right? You can just comment and say, okay, here's the Viking. I've got the pricing. What are your thoughts? We could also go Thermador. It's a lot cheaper, that sort of thing. So hopefully you get the gist of that there. A couple of other details. This item overview right here allows you to edit all of the different details. So if you want to add more images after the fact, change some of the details throughout, update the financials. Maybe you have a shipping cost that was unexpected. You can add all of those things in, as well as the important scheduling dates. So when did you order it? When's it anticipated to ship? Is there a lead time? Is there a tracking number for this specific product? Maybe, maybe not. You can put all of those details in right here from this little information icon. Okay. I think that's most of the details about that portion. Now let's get into sharing this with your actual customer. I'm going to delete this one just to clean things up a bit. But when you're ready to share your overall selection board with your customer, you're just going to hit this preview and share up in the top right-hand corner. So that's going to give you a preview of what your customer is going to see. Up at the top left, you'll see customize what your client can see. You can choose to include pricing. You can choose to hide or show that budget bar that we talked about earlier. You can see that that just popped up on the right-hand side of the screen. You can show product links. You can hide product links. And then you can also choose like what things you want approved. Maybe your images and files you don't need approval on. Those are already done. So you just want to include them on the board. You can toggle that on or off. So ultimately what's going to happen is once you've reviewed this, you're happy with everything, you can send it to your customer for approval. They can go through and say, okay, I don't want to do this panel ready dishwasher. I'm going to decline that. I'm going to leave a comment and I'm going to say, no, I don't like this. I want to just use a stainless steel dishwasher, right? They can make all of their comments back and forth with you and then approve or decline the things that they want or don't want to be used on their project. So that's kind of the gist of the client dashboard experience. When you're ready to share it, you just hit the share button. You can adjust who it's emailed to. You can change the subject. You can manage what the email looks like as well. And then you can send it directly to them. So it's a really great way to collect those selection approvals. And, you know, they're all going to be timestamps. So you'll know the activity, you'll get a notification, you'll know like, okay, the customer has approved this. I can move forward confidently for the most part, unless they change their mind with these selections, right? So that's kind of the flow of how that all works. Do we have any questions, Katie?
Yes. Let's see.
Okay.
Question from Craig. If you wanted to share this with an outside designer, how do they access it basically? Do they need to be an admin? Can they access as a vendor?
Yeah, so you would want to invite them as a team member on your account. And you can choose which projects they have access to. So if it's just one project, you can give them just one project to that, but you can absolutely use it for a third-party designer. You know, what I've seen in the industry is that there's so many interior designers and they all do it slightly differently. So the more that you can make your life easier as a contractor, I say go for it. So you could actually just go ahead and invite them to the project, invite them as a team member. They can come on board, put in all the information for you. It's a really designer-friendly application. If you don't know, you know, House Pro was conceptualized initially for interior designers with Ivy. So we have lots of designers who use our platform all day long. So it's something very comfortable that if you have a third-party designer you want to introduce this to, you absolutely can. And they can do all this for you. Everything lives in one place. And then you guys can work together in a more seamless way.
Awesome. And then just one question from Amanda. She was asking if there's a way to make more of a list view so that the customer will know, you know, what items ultimately they're selecting.
Yes, absolutely. So that's going to be the selections tracker. So I will show you that in just 1 minute. And so you'll be able to kind of see a more comprehensive list of what's going on in the project. But yeah, just 1 minute and I'll show you that.
Okay, that looks like it for now. So any other questions, feel free to add them into the Q&A tab or the chat here.
Awesome. One other thing I want to point out is that on each board, you can also convert items. So if you need to convert the items to an invoice, you can do so here, and you can choose, just the ones that are approved. You can choose just a specific vendor. If you need to go ahead and collect payment on specific specialty items, you can kind of do that directly from the board. So that's just one other thing that I wanted to mention. So backing things up a little bit, going out of selections, you can see here at the top, when you're looking at all of your boards, there's something called tracker and there's boards. These are two different features. We've just gone through boards. That's kind of the visual, organized way of looking at all your selections, right? Now we can dive into the tracker. The tracker is really like a procurement one-stop shop, but it could be used for like a list view of all of the different things that need to be selected for your project, right? You can see things like the approval status. Has it been included on any documents? Like, has this faucet been invoiced against this project? You can have all of that information, details about the room, what category you used, who you're planning to buy it from, as well as the pricing information, shipping information, SKU numbers, order tracking, and all of those fun details. So this is kind of that list view that I think that you were looking for. And as we continue on with this feature, I'll show you some more ways that you can kind of use it. So something that I want to point out here, my apologies, is the order tracking. So maybe you guys are juggling a lot of projects and you need to know what's been ordered, what hasn't been ordered, right? There's all of these different statuses here that you can choose from. Maybe this is back ordered or en route, either one. I clicked the wrong thing. But if it's back ordered, you can note that there. So that way you know the status of each specific item. Maybe this one has already been delivered. Maybe this one has been ordered. You can choose and go through so that you can real-time update what's the status of procurement for this specific item, right? And you'll see that there's a number of other like pre-filled fields that you can use. One of my favorites is the ordered by. So let's say maybe the interior designer is responsible for ordering some things. Maybe you're responsible for ordering some things, or maybe the customer is providing some family heirloom antique light fixtures, something like that. You can detail all of that in here. So that way you have like this source of truth for all of these finished products that are going into this house. Here's where they're at. Here's who's buying them, right? And here's what I need to do and what I don't need to do, essentially. And then over on this right-hand column, you can see, like, you can add in the assignee information. If there's a specific person that this needs to be passed to, like maybe your procurement person needs to be passed to this item, you can do that as well. So that's a quick highlight. Now we can get into the weeds a little bit. You'll see over here on the left-hand side, we have planning, financials, procurement, and all. So the all view is going to give you all the details. You'll see that it's really, really widespread table view for you to view all of the information for each product, right? If you look in the planning view, it's going to limit that down for you a little bit. So this is like helpful when you're in your planning process. It's just going to give you the high level facts. Okay, these are the specs on this. I have all the information I need. It's been included on an invoice or it hasn't, and gives you kind of like the high level overview. The next view is financial. So this is going to be really focused on the money. You know, how much should I pay for this? How much profit am I making on this? What am I selling this to the customer at? Shipping, you know, what's the cost of the shipping? What am I marking that up at? All of those fun things go into the financial view, which each of these views all still feed into the all view. But if you need like a limited view so that your brain can think clearly, you know, that's what those are intended for. And then lastly is procurement. This is all focused around order tracking. Has it been purchased? All of those fun things. So if you have an in-house procurement person, they can look at this view, fill in the details that they need to fill in. And then, like I said, all of that's going to feed back into this all view so that all the information is there, right? Below that, you're going to see a search bar. So let's say you want to search for all the Sherwin-Williams stuff because you want to know like what's been selected from Sherwin and what's been selected from, say, for instance, Ben Moore, right? You can search for that. You can also use the sort by functionality to do a number of different sorts. So if you want to sort it A to Z, you can do that. If you want to sort it by room, you can do that as well. So if you want to see, okay, all of the stuff that's for the kitchen, see that first. You can do that. Order status, shipping address, when it's anticipated to be shipped, you could do that. So you can kind of track and see, okay, what's coming and when. All of those fun things can be done through this sort by functionality. The next one is organize by. You can also organize by specific things. So if you want to organize and just group things, so if, let's say we want to group it by room. So now you can see everything that's in the kitchen is right here. And same thing for these other statuses. So like you want to see all the things that have been included on an invoice. You can do that here as well. You can see the invoice name and see what's been captured on it, as well as see everything that's not been invoiced yet. So that can be really important for you in your billing process as well. And then lastly of the filters is we have approval status. So if you want to see all the things that are declined, all of the decisions your customer still needs to make, like the pending things, all the ones that are finally approved at the end of the day, you can sort and see exactly what you need to see. So that way you can provide your customers with an update on like, okay, you've made these 10 selections, but these 20 are still outstanding, right? You haven't approved this. I need to know, is this a yes or a no because you're holding up drywall, those sorts of things, right? Additionally, you can do things like choose to view only products of certain document statuses. So let's say I only want to see the things that already have a purchase order. You could do that, as well as choose, you know, do you want to see the services or do you want to just see products, and so on and so forth. An important one here is going to be vendor. So let's say you want to, again, let's just say Sherwin-Williams, I want to see all the things that we need to purchase from Sherwin-Williams. You can see that there, or if you have Ferguson, you could do that as well. So there's a number of different ways that you can kind of filter and sort the data to see exactly what you need. So that kind of orients you to the left side of the screen, right? Over on the right, there's a couple of options that I want to point out as well. This first one is going to allow you to choose what this view looks like. As I mentioned, the all view is very long and wide. It's a big, long table, but you can see we've kind of helped with the space by grouping things together on top of each other within each row. If you don't like that, you can just switch to flat view. And that's going to be more of like a traditional spreadsheet view where everything is in a true column, and then it goes a little bit wider than that stacked view. So if you just watch the screen right here at details, you can see that it switches between the two, and you can kind of see what that looks like. So that's option one. The next option is where we get into customization. So if there's specific things that you want to track for these products, maybe it's warranty, you can actually add your own field to this tracker. So let's say I want warranty. Let's say you want to put a warranty expiration date. You could choose a date. So if there's a specific warranty on, say, for instance, the range, you can create that field, have the field type be a date, and hit save. And that's automatically going to be added to that tracker for you down at the bottom. Super awesome. You can also rearrange these. So let's say I want to bring that to the top. If these other ones, maybe I don't care about this install date. I don't care about a shipping side mark. I want to put the order number up here. You can drag and rearrange all of these things to be exactly what you need it to be. You just toggle on and off what you do and don't want to see, and you can customize this view completely for what works for you and your company. Once you hit save, it will reflect all of those changes in the tracker. And now you can see over here, let's see, warranty expiration. I put that bad boy in. Let's say I want to choose a date in the future. Oops, my screen's not big enough. You can just choose, let's say 01. We'll go with that. That's cool. Okay. So you can see when you create those custom fields, you can add those in and you can kind of add the level of detail that you need. Maybe there's a specific coding system that your company uses for selections. Anything that you can imagine, you can do. Maybe there's a due date on something, you can add that. If there's a specific note that you want added, you can add that as well. So it's really, really flexible for you to be able to kind of build this to best suit you and your procurement workflow. Any questions, Katie? Then I'll jump into the last two.
No questions. Okay. You're doing a great job, Abby, covering.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so now we'll talk about export options. So this is a way that you can share all of this information with your customers, with a subcontractor, with a vendor. All of those things are possible. The tracker is not currently on the client dashboard or the subcontractor dashboard. but you can still get this information to them in that list format like we spoke about earlier. So you can download this as an Excel document. You can choose what details you want to include, what details you don't want to include, and then just simply click download as Excel, and it's going to go ahead and download that document for you immediately. The next option is downloading as an FF&E schedule. Again, you can organize these however you want, include what you want, exclude what you want, and do all of those fun things. So let's say, for instance, my filter, I want approved items and I want the vendor to be only approved items from Ferguson. That's what we're seeing here. So I can send this to my Ferguson rep and say, here you go. Here's the FF&E schedule for all of these items for this project. And then they have access to everything immediately. So we can click and open that. You'll see it's got all the products that they need to order. It's giving them the SKU numbers because, remember, back to the clipper, we put all that information in. So this makes it really easy and nice for you, your vendors, your procurement team, the designers, as well as the customer. You know, all the information is there for them. You can see, like, I added that warranty expiration here. So at the end of the day, if you wanted to provide a final packet to your customers, you could do that. They'll know when things expire, when warranties expire on products, and all of those fun details that really matter in this process. And then lastly is tear sheets. That's certainly more common for designers, but if you ever need to download tear sheets for the individual items, you can do that as well from right here. And then the last thing that I want to point out over here on the right is just adding additional products. If you're already working in your selection tracker, you don't want to go back to the board, you can pull items directly in, just like I showed you earlier from right there. So you can really easily create selections from just this view if you prefer. If you don't ever want to use the boards, you can just do that. So it's really flexible for you to kind of work both ways. One other thing that I will point out, you know, something that I get asked a lot is, what is the difference between a mood board and a selection board, right? I hear that all the time. Mood boards are really, you know, this is something that designers really love. You know, it's a way for them to set that visual direction and set the tone of the project. Like you can see, this is the initial mood board for that project that we've been working with today. Maybe I pull in different products together to see how they look together. Maybe I'm bringing in wallpaper, I'm bringing in light fixtures and flooring, make sure that the vibe really matches what the client is wanting. They can make multiple pages of these, like maybe there's one for appliances, maybe there's multiple options, maybe there's different flooring options that you want to share with people. You can do all of that on the mood board. And while you can use actual products, it's more of like an inspiration thing. So if you have inspirational images, you could upload those there. And then when you're ready to get a little bit more final, that's when you move into your selection boards and say, okay, these are actual products. These are the things that we're really planning to use, and add those to the boards, get that final approval, and kind of go from there. I just wanted to point that out. And then lastly, I just want to say, you know, selection boards can be used any way that you want. You know, if you only need to get deck colors approved, do it. You can totally do that. I've seen people use it for deck finishes all the way to like $1-2 million homes. So there's really a broad spectrum here for what you can do with our selections feature. So yeah. Any questions coming through, Katie?
No, I don't see any other questions.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining today. If you have any questions, you know, always chat into us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all. Bye.